Hello everyone, we have a new video about Unearthed Arcana. We're going to be talking about Forgotten Realms subclasses, as well as some of the survey results coming from the Artificer.
So the Artificer survey generated a whole bunch of results that our team is still going through and analyzing. But one of the things that we're enjoying about the new way that we're scoring surveys, where we have this color scheme of greens that says, yes, I want this feature exactly the way it's written, or yellow of, I want it, but please change it, or red of like, nope. It means we've been able to see very quickly from a high level, what's going to move forward the way it is now and what is going to move forward but need adjustment. And we saw a lot of green and yellow in the initial survey results. And so now where we are in the process is digging into the written responses, because a big part of responding to anything that was rated as yellow is discerning, well, now how are we going to change it to make sure that we take this thing that people have identified that, yes, we want this, but adjust it in the way that will hopefully turn the yellows into greens. And so we'll have more to share about the Artificer in a future video. But today we also have another Unearthed Arcana.
And it's a big one.
Yes, we have been working on a number of fun things behind the scenes as we have been waiting for each of the core books to come out, and soon the end of the trilogy, the monster manual will be in everyone's hands. And we can now finally share, as we did with the Artificer, a lot of the other things we've been working on for other books coming out now in 2025. And so one of the books we have told people is coming is a Forgotten Realms Player's Guide. And we have a whole bunch of fun player options that are destined for that book. And among those player options, we're exploring 8 subclasses, all 8 of which are in today's Unearthed Arcana. 5 of them are brand new, and 3 of them are returning subclasses that are getting a revision treatment like we did with the subclasses in the Player's Handbook. The 3 returning subclasses are the Knowledge Domain for the Cleric, the Purple Dragon Knight for the Fighter, and the Bladesinger for the Wizard. Now, there are a lot of interesting things to dive into in the 3 returning subclasses and the 5 new subclasses, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, Mackenzie is going to be our guide through a lot of the interesting ins and outs in these 8 subclasses.
So we have plenty of subclasses here. First off, let's dive.
There's so many.
Yeah, it is a chunky UA. Let's go ahead and dive into the College of the Moon.
The College of the Moon is a new Bard subclass that is heavily rooted in the history of the Moonshade Isles in Faerun. Also in the Moonshade Isles, there's a lot of Fae influence, so you'll see a little bit of Fae influence here, as well as a lot of Druid influence.
Yeah, and that's very apparent right at 3rd level.
Yeah.
If you have the Moonshade folk tales,
yes.
And each of these tales have different very specific effects.
Yes. So at 3rd level, you get your Moonshade Folktales, which basically means as a magic action, you can imbue yourself with the power of one of these folktales, which basically give you different ways of using your bardic inspiration. You have 3 tales, like you mentioned. The first tale is the Tale of Life, which allows you to expend bardic inspiration whenever you restore hit points to a creature using a spell. You can buff up that healing with a roll of their bardic inspiration. Then you have the Tale of Gloam, which allows you to, if you are giving that bardic inspiration to another creature as a bonus action, you can also disengage or hide as a part of that bonus action. This one is very much meant for mobility usage, for if you're stuck in the thick of combat and you want to help out your fighter who's like nearby and fighting an enemy, but you also are way too close and way too squishy. You can give them that inspiration and then get the heck out of dodge, which is super fun. And then we have the Tale of Mirth, which is one of my personal favorites, which I like to think of as sort of a counterpart to the College of Lore's iconic cutting words. The Tale of Mirth lets you take a reaction to expend a bardic inspiration die if a creature you can see fails a saving throw. You can roll that die and lower the saving throw by the number rolled, which I think is super fun as a way to sort of help bolster like your other spellcasters or even spells that you cast, really making sure that you can almost like tricksily or playfully cause them to actually fail when they think they succeed in a moment of triumph. I think it's, and that is one of those ones that leans really heavily into that fey sort of whimsy, dangerous playfulness that I think really embodies the fey.
What I like about all these subclasses is like they are, they're very inspired by the Forgotten Realms, but these are subclasses that can fit into anyone's campaign.
Yes. We wanted this subclass to have these really clear roots when you're reading it, like alongside like a campaign guide or something. Like these are people from the Moonshade Isles who grew up in the Moonshade Isles and draw on that magic that they've learned and absorbed. But also this is a subclass that is a love letter to folklore, to oral tradition, to kind of telling the stories of the land and its people and making sure they pass on and live on, and the magic of keeping those traditions alive.
Perfect. We've also got, well, that's not the end of level.
No,
you get at level 3.
Yes. At level 3, you also get Primal Lorist, which allows you to learn the Druidic language as well as one cantrip from the Druid spell list. This will allow your College of the Moon Bard to talk to all your Druid buddies in your very nice secret language. You also get an additional skill proficiency, just to add a little bit more extra parallelism to the Druid there.
At level 6, we have the Blessing of the Moonwells.
Yes. In the Moonshades, there are these locations called Moonwells, which are these really powerful sacred sites of primal magic and primal energy. So we wanted to pay homage to that, as well as give the bard access to one of the really iconic Druid spells of Moonbeam. So this feature allows you to cast Moonbeam. It also allows you to put your own little bardic twist on a Moonbeam, casting it as a bonus action, and also allowing it to kind of heal allies under certain circumstances, which I think is super fun.
And then at level 14, we've got Bolstered Folktales.
Yes. At level 14, your Moonshade Folktales get even more powerful. So the tales that expend your bardic inspiration, you can now just roll a d6 in place of actually expending a roll. And the Tale of Gloam, which keys off you giving a bardic inspiration to another character or creature, when you do that, you can now also just teleport, having that, again, that really fey feeling of just sort of bopping here and there and almost fey walking like through like an ethereal gate to another location without being able to be hit or struck during that movement.
This brings us to the knowledge domain.
Yes.
This existed previously, but there's been significant changes to the knowledge domain.
So the knowledge domain last appeared in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and it has since gotten a wonderful makeover and glow up, as many of the subclasses in the 2024 Player's Handbook did, which is super exciting. We really wanted to, in our sort of revamp of the subclass, we really wanted to emphasize that this is not just the smart cleric, this is the cleric of the mind, and whatever that entails. This is the cleric of knowledge of both past, present, and future, really emphasizing the sort of otherworldliness and divinity that can come from studying and mastering aspects of knowledge, learning, and the mind.
Perfect.
And you can see the changes start immediately at level 3 with Blessings of Knowledge, which now gives you proficiency with a type of artisan tool set, which we mostly wanted to do because gods of knowledge are often also, they are either share domains with, or they also are patrons of like crafting. And also we have these really wonderful new crafting rules in the 2024 Player's Handbook. So we wanted to give this knowledge domain cleric, who should know like how to use all these sorts of things, a way to interact with those crafting rules. So with this feature, you can like get proficiency with calligraphy supplies and make spell scrolls. You could make potions of healing. You could make poison if you wanted to. You could make armor for your friends. You've got a whole lot of things that you can do with those crafting rules and this artisan tool proficiency that fit kind of under that jack of all trades, well-rounded kind of knowledge-focused individual.
Now on top of that, with that theme, we also have knowledge domain spells, and this has been revamped.
So yes, the spells that you get as part of the knowledge domain that are always prepared have been also given a wonderful revamp. We have included way more combat relevant and damaging spells on that spell list now, like Mind Spike, which is super fun. We really took advantage of a handful of those new spells that got put in the 2024 Player's Handbook. You'll also notice that the Knowledge Domain spell list that you get is much bigger than all of the other Cleric spell lists for the other Cleric subclasses, which is super cool because we really wanted to emphasize this idea of knowing a lot, and also the fact that a lot of knowledge deities are also deities of magic or spellcasters. You'll also see a lot of the things that were in the 2014 Knowledge Domain are now fully just integrated into the spell list with like Detect Thoughts, with Legend Lore, with Comprehend Languages and Tongues. You get a lot of that like utility that previously existed in the class, but has just been buffed up to an immensely powerful magical degree, so to make it even feel more divine and powerful.
Right.
And one of the fun benefits of having this really expanded spell list is the new feature you get at level 3, which is Mind Magic.
Yeah, this is very nice. This gives you a lot of not only utility, but you can you can adapt.
Oh yeah, it's real great because like the idea for this feature was this: you have all this knowledge in your brain, and now you can just make it happen through an act of divine just power.
Yeah.
So you get to expend a use of your channel divinity to cast a spell from your knowledge domain spell list without using a spell slot, and more importantly, without using material components. So this is really important. Like in early levels, you can cast Identify without needing to find that pesky pearl. And at later levels, you just can cast Legend Lore and learn things.
At level 6, we have Unfettered Mind, and this is always important. I love telepathy. It has saved my party so many times.
Yes. So not only do you get telepathy out and are able to, mentally connect with other creatures, but you also get to mentally connect with creatures simultaneously.
Yeah.
In the 2024 Player's Handbook, the rules for telepathy state that you can only have like a telepathic conversation with one creature at a time. Because this is the Cleric of the Mind, we really wanted to make sure like it feels like you're just able to expand your mind and your brain, so you can telepathically connect with multiple creatures at the same time and just sort of project your thoughts outward. There's additionally a fun little secondary part of this feature that allows you to, anytime you're making an intelligence check, if you roll really low, you can replace your check total with your wisdom score.
Perfect. And then at level 17, we have Divine Foreknowledge.
So the way I like to see it is like we've given you knowledge of the past, we've given you knowledge of the present with like being able to read minds and read thoughts. So what better way to top off this class than giving you knowledge of the future? Level 17, you get Divine Foreknowledge, which allows you to get advantage on D20 tests for 1 hour, which is super fun and kind of represents that you kind of know what's going to happen, and so you're able to just really use that to your advantage, which I think is super fun.
This brings us to the Purple Dragon Knight. This has existed before, but there's been some significant changes to how the Purple Dragon Knight functions.
Yes. So the Purple Dragon Knight originally appeared in Sword Coast's Adventurer's Guide, but we have, in this UA, we have given it more than just like a glow up. We've given it a full makeover. We really wanted to keep this sort of the core identity of the Purple Dragon Knight, of this kind of beacon of like bravery and leader on the battlefield, while also really making sure the class lives up, or the subclass lives up to its name of being a Dragon Knight. And what better way to do that in a game of Dungeons and Dragons than giving the knight a dragon?
Yeah.
Which is super exciting. So the Purple Dragon Knight now gets a lovely purple dragon companion. They're modeled after the amethyst dragons that we've seen like in Fizbin's and other previous installments in our game, but sort of appears in a wholly new way that's very unique to this subclass, a very unique little dragon companion that grows with you as you sort of level up and adventure across the world.
Well, first off, let's start at level 3. We have Knightly Envoy.
Knightly Envoy now lets you learn a language as well as gives you the ability to cast Comprehend Languages as a ritual. We really wanted to emphasize the fact that like this sort of archetype of a character is running around the world, doing good deeds and supporting folks and being that sort of ambassador. And so we wanted to make sure that like no matter where you kind of went, you had the ability to understand and respond to the needs of the people around you. And then following that, we get the very awesome banner new third level feature of your Purple Dragon Companion. So you can use a dragon in combat. It has some really fun abilities, including a little gravity breath that allows you to push or pull people, so you can be really tactical with where you send your dragon companion. And also, most importantly, if your dragon companion dies, we have it so that you can take a magic action and expend a use of your second wind to revitalize and resurrect that dragon, because I love pets.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure you can resurrect your dragon. You can also resurrect your dragon if you aren't able to get to your dragon in time or something else unforeseen happens to your dragon companion. You can also bring them back with a ritual after a short or long rest.
And the stat block is included for this Purple Dragon
Yes.
Companion. It is in this UA, and also it's very clear that this scales. The higher
Yes.
levels you go, the more powerful this companion becomes.
Yep. So yeah, it scales with your, a lot of things in the stat block you'll find are like tied to your initiative due to that kind of connection with Amethyst dragons and their sort of psionic capabilities, which is super fun to play with. This idea that you're like psionically bonded and mentally bonded with this creature, really kind of leaning into that dragon rider fantasy of like you have a hatchling and you just bond with that dragon for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that happens at level 7. You literally can ride your
Yes.
dragon.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the breath gets more
Oh
powerful
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Speaking of being a dragon rider, at level
yeah.
7 you become a dragon rider.
It's on the tin.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we give you a dragon, you're gonna want to ride it. We're gonna let you ride it. It's super fun. But yeah, so you get to ride your dragon. It can. I like to imagine this is when you hit your dragon's awkward teenage years. It's doing its best.
Yeah.
It's not quite at full like adult dragon power, but it's kind of a little gangly still. So you can do a little bit of like limited flight, some like gliding with the dragon, and its breath becomes a little bit more powerful. And also you can heal your dragon when you use your second wind,
Yeah.
which is again really we want to play with that link between dragon and knight and really emphasize that kind of shared resource back and forth that they've got going on.
At level 10, you have Rallying Surge.
Yes.
And this can work in multiple different
Yes, Rallying Surge, formerly Inspiring Surge. Before, you used to be able to just choose one creature and they could just make a weapon attack. In this new revamped version, we wanted to make it so that you could have more creatures. Because you are supposed to be this paragon and this bolstering force on the battlefield. And if you're using a limited resource like Action Surge, we really wanted to give you all the bang for your buck. So you can choose up to now 3 allies to be affected by your Rallying Surge. In addition, we also gave a retreat option as well. And anyone who's affected by the Rallying Surge can essentially choose which option they want. They can either make that attack. If your dragon is affected by the Rallying Surge and decides to make an attack, it can use one of its options in its stat block. But if you want your wizard friend to be affected by this, and they don't really have a weapon on them, they can retreat. They can just move up to their half their speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So this is a really good way of getting some of your squishier or non-combative allies out of trouble, which I think is super fun and again adds to that really like tactical leadership feel that this knight is supposed to have.
And then at level 15, we have the Amethyst Pinnacle.
Yes, the teenage years are done.
Yeah.
The gangly teenage years of your dragon mount are done, and now it is superior. It grows in size again. It can fly unrestricted, and you can attack in tandem with it on your turn. When you take the attack action, you can mix and match whether or not you're making the attacks, your dragon's making the attacks. You can even mix and match if the dragon is maybe using its gravity breath now alongside you making different attacks. The fighter's biggest thing is that it gets so many attacks, and we really wanted to provide different ways and different combinations that you could tactically use all those attacks that you've got alongside your companion.
And it is also much easier to use it as a flying mount at
Oh
this
yes,
point.
yeah. You don't. It doesn't just sort of glide, hop and glide. You can now just fully fly, unrestrained, take to the skies, full Dragon Rider fantasy.
Perfect. And then at level 18, you can allow the same resistances.
Yes. So both you and your dragon at level 18 get resistance to force and psychic damage. Force damage is one of those damage types that just sort of shows up a lot, and so it's really fun to be able to give that to a player character and have that sort of uncanny resistance to like this just sheer magical energy.
Yeah, a much
yeah.
rarer thing to be
yeah.
resistance to force damage.
Yes. Yep.
It usually circumvents a lot of things.
Oh yeah, so it's really exciting. We also have resistance to psychic damage. Again, kind of like leaning into that really magical connection you've got with your psionically linked amethyst or purple dragon companion, and that sort of link between the two of you just bolsters you both.
This leads us to the Oath of the Noble Genies, Paladin. Tell me about this.
A paladin who takes the Oath of the Noble Genies works in service with the varying different genie types that we have in our game. The Dao, the Jinn, the Ifrit, or the Marids. And they are these paladins that just revere and honor and become conduits for the wild and beautiful but also destructive power of the elements that the genies in our game just really truly embody. The sort of otherworldly, impressive, cataclysmic, natural or elemental power that the genies in our game just kind of wield. So it's really fun. Like this paladin is one that really leans into like elemental energy, but also was a very magic-focused paladin, which is super exciting to play with.
Yeah, and at level 3, this becomes very apparent with Elemental Smite. Like you have 4 different options of how you can use your Smite.
So we wanted to represent all 4 elements, all 4 genie kinds throughout the subclass. So you can see it really clearly in Elemental Smite, where you can use a Channel Divinity when you cast Divine Smite to give it a little extra elemental oomph. And each one is kind of flavored after, the different elements. So you have air, fire, earth, water. You can, summon up a crushing mound of earth. You can just set your enemy on fire with your Divine Smite in addition to that radiant damage. Some of the other fun ones can you push people away or just teleport away and become misty, almost like air or like a cloud. I think there's a lot of fun tactical options you can use to kind of either set yourself up for really good tactical strikes later down the line, or retreat, or help your allies in melee and elsewhere to kind of either help them get out of situations or set your allies up for really devastating strikes.
And then you have Genie spells, also at level 3.
So you also get, at level 3, you get a bunch of spells that you always have prepared. These spells range from really elementally focused spells like Chromatic Orb to more kind of fantastical and leaning into that sort of otherworldly, extraplanar nature that is in the other half of the subclass. So you get things like Mirror Image, Phantasmal Force, and even Contact Other Plane at high enough level, which is I think can be, we wanted, with a lot of our spell lists, we want to balance things that you can use in combat with also things that you can use outside of combat. And I think this list has a lot of fun ways that you can sort of invoke that sort of extraplanar elemental energy outside of combat, like reaching out to a genie lord from one of the elemental planes to ask for their advice or their knowledge or some of the stories they have heard as these sort of collectors of treasures and tales.
And also, this paladin is unique in the fact that you don't necessarily have to think of it as this kind of generic, the paladin that was wearing a full set of armor.
Yes.
This paladin can benefit by not having armor.
Yes. We wanted to try playing around with this idea of a paladin who isn't that archetypal, heavily armored, clank, clank, here comes the tank paladin.
Yeah.
And also really lean into this idea of the elements themselves are very fluid. Even Earth itself can just move and change shape and become a lot of different things. And so we wanted to try and prioritize this movement and flexibility and this magical otherworldly power over just sort of a bulwark of force. So at level 3, you also get Genie's Splendor, which gives you a bonus to armor class if you are not wearing medium or heavy armor, which I think is super fun. I love playing dex-based paladins. It's always been my favorite little niche to burrow into when I play, and so this was really a dream come true for me.
That same philosophy enters into like level 7 with the aura of elemental shielding as well.
Yes. At level 7, you've got your Aura of Protection going, and all of our paladins get some like cool new feature with their Aura of Protection as they level up. And so for our Noble Genie Paladin, who's all about the elements, it made sense to have your Aura of Protection also give you and your allies resistance to certain damage types. So you can choose a damage type from our list of elemental damages, and you just have resistance as long as your aura is active. The other fun thing I really love about how we've done this feature for now is that you can just change the damage type at the start of your turn without really needing an action. You can just sort of like, if you go into battle and you're like, oh, we're fighting a black dragon and I thought we were fighting a white dragon, cool. Changing that to acid anyways. No, and it doesn't come at any cost to like your, you don't have to like regret your decision or try and like think too far ahead. You can just sort of go, nope, switch.
Perfect. And at level 15, we've got Elemental Rebuke.
So you get hit, you can reduce some of that damage, and then you just send a blast back at your enemy that's charged with whatever elemental damage type you want.
And then finally, at level 20, we have Noble Scion.
Yes.
Which is very on theme.
So you not only can fly, you also get a minor wish ability, which is super exciting in that, like, if an ally or you in your Aura of Protection fails a d20 test, you can just take a reaction and make it succeed.
Perfect.
And it really fits into that. It's not quite as powerful as a full wish.
Yeah, of course not.
But it is like kind of that idea of like changing fate and being able to like take control of that destiny and just sort of go, nope, you succeed. Ta-da!
And now we have the Winter Walker Ranger.
Yes. This is your Icewind Dale Ranger. This is your surviving in the Arctic Ranger, but also like they are a terror of those Arctic environments themselves. So as you get higher up in this subclass, you become more and more like supernatural, and you become like this haunt yourself, which is super cool and just kind of like very, very terrifying.
Yeah, this very much ties in with Rime of the Frostmane,
Yes.
which I love, which is one of my favorite adventures ever.
No, it was so much fun like looking at Icewind Dale for references when we were working through the subclass and just being like, all right, how do we bring the spooky of Icewind Dale into and bring that sort of like that energy that you feel like when you're like stuck on a tundra and you just see that blizzard coming through and you just see like eyes moving through that blizzard. Like, how do you get that feeling and put it into a subclass?
Very cool. We're right at level 3, Hunter's Rhyme.
At level 3, you get Hunter's Rhyme. In the 2024 Player's Handbook, we include Hunter's Mark as part of the base Ranger class, which means now in subclasses we get to do some really awesome sort of permutations and alterations on the Hunter's Mark spell. So here, when you cast Hunter's Mark, it's almost like you get coated in ice and your foe gets coated in ice. You get some temporary hit points from this coating of ice that sort of clings to you, and you can hinder the opponent that is marked by your Hunter's Mark.
Yeah, you kind of slow them down in a way that it's harder for them to disengage.
It's harder for them to get away, which is super, it really sort of starts solidifying you as this sort of terrifying, stalwart creature of the frost and the tundra and the Arctic. At level 3, you also get a bunch of fun cold damage spells, as well as spells that help you navigate an Arctic environment. You get resistance to cold damage, and you do a little bit of extra cold damage anytime you hit something.
Yeah, the spell list is fantastic. Ice Knife.
Oh yeah.
Ice Knife, Pass Without Trace, Remove Curse, Ice Storm, Cone of Cold.
Yep.
All makes sense.
Oh yeah. No, it was just, we just cold damage, cold damage, cold damage.
At level 7, we have Fortifying Soul.
Yes. So this was, it's this idea that like you have spent so much time facing down these absolute horrors in this Arctic wasteland that you are able to bolster other creatures against this the horrors of this landscape because of your experience. So you can do things like, give them advantage on saving throws to avoid the frightened condition, and also help them regain a little bit of extra hit points after a short rest.
At level 11, we have Chilling Retribution.
Yes, and this is again sort of leaning into that fantasy of, for lack of better words, I'm not stuck in the tundra with you, you're stuck in the tundra with me.
Yeah.
So with this feature, when you get hit, you can cause the creature that hit you to become frightened, and while they're frightened, their speed is reduced to 0. It's like you're freezing them in place with terror.
That's perfect. I love that.
Yep. And then at level 15, you become the epitome of, like, you become the thing that you have hunted. You become the thing that terrifies and stalks things in the night. You can become a frozen ghost yourself.
Yeah, like when you use your Hunter's Mark,
Yes.
this applies, and one element of this is called Frozen Soul?
Yes, you just get straight up immunity to cold damage. You are unaffected by it, and whenever you adopt this form and whenever you sort of start your turns afterwards, you are just radiating this aura of ice as you're just sort of moving around. You also, again, kind of leaning into that, survival horror aspect, you can become partially incorporeal like a ghost. So you can avoid being grappled or knocked prone, and you can just sort of move around in this, it's almost like semi-ethereal way. And again, you can see us playing with that ability to use Hunter's Mark now in subclasses, because it is a core part of that 2024 base Ranger class, which has been such a joy and a boon to us as designers.
And then we've got the Scion of the Three.
Violence.
This is probably, this is probably my favorite one. It's
Yeah!
for those who are familiar with Forgotten Realms or familiar with Baldur's Gate 3, this is the rogue for you. So tell me all about this new rogue.
This is the rogue that goes, violence is not the answer, violence is a question, and the answer is yes. So this is a rogue that is inspired by the Dead Three, the trio of gods from the Forgotten Realms that are, it's Bane, the deity of tyranny, Baal, the deity of violence and murder, and Merkel, the deity of death. So this is the rogue whose middle name is Harm. This is a rogue who is just here to cause as much pain as they possibly can. And I was very happy designing this class, and I don't know what that says about me as a person. But yes, at level 3, your first feature is Bloodthirst. It's almost the inverse of like our Assassin's ability, or the Assassin Rogue subclass's ability, where now if your sneak attack hits a creature who's sort of sustained a lot of damage, you're dealing extra damage. I like that, almost like the sensing the blood in the water.
Yeah.
You can also, if an enemy...
And like you mentioned, very different than the Assassin, because the Assassin is like, I got you right at the beginning.
Start.
And this one's like, this gets momentum.
Yeah, this is we've been doing this for a while. This is starting to get fun. I'm really getting into it. I'm really enjoying it now. You also have a fun reaction where if a creature you see drops to 0, you can just teleport and then make another attack.
Yeah.
So you really feed off the death and destruction around you. You also, at level 3, sort of drawing on that otherworldly deities that fuel this class, you get a damage resistance as well as a cantrip. And the damage resistance and cantrip depends on the which one of the 3 you feel most attuned to that day. You can change it anytime you finish a long rest, so you don't really have to pick a deity and run with it. You can just sort of choose, today I feel more like murder. Today I feel more like being a terror and a tyrant. Today I just feel like, I'm just sort of chill with death. So you could kind of choose and sort of pick between the 3 as you're going along on your adventure.
I believe we have some additional ways that you can use your sneak attack in this subclass as well. We have Strike Fear.
Yes, so this is using some of the new stuff we introduced into the Rogue in the 2024 Player's Handbook with your Cunning Strike. So at level 9, this Rogue gets a unique Cunning Strike option that lets you impose the Frightened condition on a target.
And we have the Aura of Malevolence.
We want it to be like a subclass where you can sort of align yourself with one of the Dead Three, but you can also sort of switch it up as you want. Depending on your choice, you deal damage in this sort of emanation of just malignant energy around you, and the type of damage is corresponds to the deity that you've pledged yourself to that day. Most importantly, though, the damage done by this sort of aura just straight up ignores resistance. It's just a harm aura. it's a I'm here to cause a problem or a, and that's super, just like it's super exciting. We really wanted to lean into that. No, these rogues are here to cause pain and suffering in a way that is still fun for everyone around the table.
And then the final ability
Yes.
we have Dread Incarnate.
Yes. So once you've hit those high levels, it gives you another. It plays into earlier when you get that new Cunning Strike option to terrify creatures. You now get advantage on those creatures that are frightened, and you also just, when you roll your sneak attack dice, if you roll a 1 or a 2, no, you didn't. You rolled a 3.
Perfect. Let's talk about Spellfire Sorcery. This
Yes.
is super fun.
Yes.
There's
So-
some fire. There's
Yeah.
some celestial energy here.
Spellfire is the direct connection to the weave. You are plugging yourself directly into that raw magic potential. And this is a sorcerer that just all of its innate sorceress ability comes from just being directly plugged into the weave. So you can see it like at level 3. When you spend a sorcery point on your turn, you can either unleash this absolute searing, like radiant fire, or you can bolster your allies with some temporary health. Again, that like sort of like you're expending your magic, and because of that, the magic is almost just uncontrollably just bursting out of you in ways that are just like either helpful or hurtful. And thankfully, you get to choose.
Yeah.
But it is again that sort of feeling of like you are just radiating so much magic that it just sort of comes out.
That's perfect. I love
Yep.
that stuff. I mean, I being a wild magic sorcerer, this is a little bit more focused. This is like a magic fire hose.
This is less of we'll roll and see what happens. This is I know it's about to explode, so I can aim it at least. I can point the fire hose in the correct direction vaguely.
Vaguely. We also have an expanded spell list.
The Spellfire Sorcerer has wonderful spells. You'll see a lot of like radiant damage on this spell list, but you'll also see a lot of healing and bolstering spells here. This is because in a lot of Forgotten Realms stories, wielders of Spellfire are able to both, cause these big radiant bursts, but also able to reinvigorate and heal their allies. And you'll see kind of that through line all throughout the subclass. This sort of duality of Spellfire of healing and searing.
And at level 6, we have Absorb Spell.
This was so much fun to make. Oh my goodness. Yes, so part of being connected to the weave is that you have this natural attunement to magic, which allows you to quite literally absorb magic from spells. So you have your counterspell, and when you cast counterspell and that causes that spell to dissipate, you just regain sorcery points. You're really pulling that magic into you and making it a resource that you can use later on.
Then at level 14, we have Honed Spellfire.
Yes, so at level 14, all that magic that's sort of been bursting out of you since level 3 just gets better. The amount of temporary hit points goes up, and the damage it does also goes up.
And then finally at level 18, we've got the Crown of Spellfire.
Yes, so you gain a bunch of things like being able to fly, like being able to avoid magical effects and spells, and I think my favorite part is that when you are hit with an attack roll, you can just expend some of your hit dice to reduce the amount of damage. Like we cast it as like burning your life force to kind of keep your actual hit points going. It's almost like you're like in that very classic narrative sense of, you're putting yourself and your energy into fueling this magic. You're burning the vigor inside to sort of project this magical shield that is protecting you from harm, which I think is a great boon for our very notoriously squishy sorcerers.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a little bit of a tanky one once you get to this point, because you also, if you're in a position to fail a saving throw and you succeed, you don't take half damage, you take no damage.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
if you don't succeed, you just
specifically
take
for
half
spells
damage.
and magical effects, like if it's like a regular bomb, you're still kind of you're still toast. You're still a very toasty sorcerer. But that connection with the weave lets you gives you that extra avoidance for like magically charged effects.
And this is like an absolute classic, very tied to the Forgotten Realms, but
Yes.
also this is like 2nd edition Elven Handbook kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
It's the Bladesinger. wizard.
Yeah, it's back, baby.
So tell me what some of the revisions have been here.
So yeah, the Bladesinger, it has some revisions since we've last seen it in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Like Jeremy's talked about in the Artificer, when we're taking something from Tasha's, a lot of that work is just sort of bringing it up so it is in line with a lot of the quality of life improvements that we gave to a lot of the other things that appeared in the 2024 Player's Handbook. You can see a lot of those quality of life things here, starting with the Blade Song now lets you use your intelligence modifier for attack and damage rolls.
Yeah.
Like in the 2024 Player's Handbook, you'll see like a lot of times when we have those expendable resources like the Blade Song, we've given them like an overall sort of oomph boost across the board because we want to make sure that you get what you get the most out of that expendable resource. So with this, we gave you that sort of boost to your attack and damage rolls. Now get to use your intelligence modifier instead of the strength or dex that you would normally use.
Training in War Song is improved.
Yes, you can now you gain proficiency with all melee martial weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. We have wonderful weapons, and since we gave the wizard some proficiency with simple weapons, we figured we'd just open the door for them for the Bladesinger. So theoretically, you can be a Bladesinger with a battle axe now, and that's super fun. The other really important thing for training in War and Song is now you can use a melee weapon that you are proficient with as a spellcasting focus.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which, again, really helps our very combat-focused Bladesingers, so that way they can still be casting their spells and not worry about having to rifle through their pockets for like a crystal orb or a wand while they're like trying to fend off someone with a rapier.
Song of Victory.
Yes, because we had moved up using your intelligence modifier for the damage rolls way earlier in the subclass, we had some room in the level 14 feature to do something new. And so now this feature lets you make an attack as a bonus action whenever you cast a spell. Which again, we wanted to emphasize, like, the Bladesinger is first and foremost a wizard. So we wanted to make sure that you had a lot of those options to still cast your spells while also doing all the fun parts about being a Bladesinger and being, a wizard with a sword. So having this ability to, cast your spells as an action and then still make those hits with your bonus action just kind of helps balance that out and really emphasizes the spellcaster nature of the Bladesinger.
We're mentioning just the changes. You still get the benefits to your armor class and things like that when your Blade Song are going on.
Yeah, we kept all the things that we really loved from Tasha's, like the boost to your armor class during the Blade Song, the boosts to your saving throws to maintain concentration, extra attack, all those wonderful things that we really loved in Tasha's have stayed. We have just, again, it has been just bringing it back in line with all the sort of quality of life improvements that we did in the 2024 Player's Handbook. Like
you mentioned the battle axe, longsword. These are versatile weapons. Just as long as you stay using them with one hand, they're still applicable to using the Blade Song. But if you try to use two hands, then that's when things go out the door.
So you have proficiency with anything that very specifically doesn't have the heavy or the two-handed property.
Right.
You can certainly, like, a longsword is a very classic Bladesinger weapon. You just can't use two hands to make that attack.
And I love the idea of a very elegant battle axe.
You got to keep your one hand sort of doing the magic jazz hands as you're on guard. And
perfect. That is a lot of subclasses, Mackenzie.
Hey.
We got through it. That is a ton of content.
What
again,
a beefy UA.
All very Forgotten Realms themed, but fits into just about anyone's fantasy, anyone's campaign setting. I mean, like, that's the fun thing about the Forgotten Realms, right? Like, it's so many flavors and so many archetypes of, like, fantasy that people enjoy. And so, like, a lot of these subclasses are really, like, tied to the Forgotten Realm, but they're also tied to, like, the fantasy genres that, like, all can find a home in the Forgotten Realms, whether you have, like, survival horror, sword and sorcery, like mythic fantasy, like all of those things have a home in the Forgotten Realms. You can see them in these subclasses. Rogues lined with evil gods.
Yeah, all of those things. But you can also see those archetypes throughout, like, any setting, and you can really just adapt these for places beyond the Forgotten Realms. And I'm so excited to see what folks think and how they play with these subclasses and what they have to say about them. It's going to be super exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and as a reminder, the best way for us to, send us your feedback, do that with the survey that is on Unearthed Arcana in D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
We always appreciate comments on YouTube and everywhere else, but
Yes.
mostly the most important thing is filling out that survey, letting us know what your playtest experience was, and get us that feedback. We are listening. We want to find out. We want to do more. So thank you so much.
Yes.
God, what is that? What is that one campaign setting that it's really hard to remember? Oh, it's the Forgotten Realms.
No.
I'm doing it for the face.
No.
Yes.
No.
Can you believe I came up with that just now?
I didn't cast my defensive spell fast enough.
Yeah.
You actually were so good at poker face that I thought we were having a serious conversation.
I know, it's going to get worse for you in our friendship.